Well, welcome back, and this is going to be the fifth of 8 videos looking at Chapter 1 and risk management. And in this particular video, what we're going to be doing is looking at an article written by Donn Parker that talks about the risks of risk-based security. And you can kind of follow the premises that Donn builds. They're somewhat logical. And it starts with this first idea that if you're looking at things that are certainties, that you know that are going to happen, like virus attacks or malware, perhaps even phishing attacks, it's pretty easy to go and justify increasing security spending to address those particular attacks. And the reason why is you've got real experience, real data. The ability to calculate this out allows you to make prudent investments in security, and that's not the issue that Donn addresses in the paper. He kind of gives that component of it away. What he suggests is that it is more difficult to get resourcing for security or risk management when you've got rare but significant threats that are occurring out there. Okay, and so to do that, you've got to manage and reduce your security risks. To manage, you have to have some degree of control. To have control, you have to be able to measure, and that there are components associated with risk management that are not measurable. That's what makes this such a rich field. And it actually goes back, if you will, to the principles of war. If you want to win a war, you have to know yourself and you have to know your enemy. And in the case of security, and to Donn's point, neither of these in information security are actually measurable. And that's the challenge that we have with risk-based security. So if you're going to measure that risk, that means you have to anticipate frequency and impact of rare loss events on a specific setting. And that specific setting may have millions of different configuration factors that you have to go back and measure. If security risk is not measurable, and he suggests that it's not, because the frequency and impact of those future incidents are mutually dependent variables. Okay, you have irrational enemies out there. It's very, very difficult to measure with any degree of frequency, skill, knowledge, resources, authority, motives, and objectives associated with them. They're operating from unknown locations and unknown future times, attacking known but untreated vulnerabilities. And those vulnerabilities may be known only to the attacker but not known to the defenders. In other words, a zero-day attack. So as you're looking at that, these attacks are actually multifaceted, can be very sophisticated, and that the risks are related in very unknown and complex ways. Finally, the impact may be minimal for certain things, but in major attacks and major in minor attacks. Wrap yourself around that wordplay. Impact may be minimal in major attacks and major in minor attacks. It leads to the quote, "For want of a nail, the war was lost." And so that complexity is what drives the challenges associated with doing risk. And so Donn suggests that a different approach is needed. Okay? That it is the emperor's new clothes. That you have to replace diligence, replace the current approach with diligent-based security consisting of measurable and tangible diligence, ethical practice, compliance, and enablement activities. I'm not quite sure what those words mean. So what do you think about this? Is security impossible? Is risk-based security impossible? And if it is impossible for the reasons that I think Donn addresses in a very structural decomposition of the problem, then what do you do about that? And if you would want to look at a counter to this article, I've linked that in, that talks about why they're skeptical about due diligence-based security. So read that, and you kind of see the two different sides of the issue. And as you're doing that, I have a slightly humorous view of two different sides of, is Peter Pan an angel or Peter Pan a devil? And you're kind of seeing the same thing here with the Parker article. So, some homework for you, if you will, in this video. In this particular video, you need to go and you're seeing different sides of the same story, and you have to make some judgment calls about what we do. As you do that, this will conclude the 5th of 8 videos looking at Introduction to Risk Management in Chapter 1 of the textbook. What we're going to do in the next video is actually spend some time going and looking at HIPAA, a very specific example where there are different risks, and make sure that you're a little bit comfortable with that. So we're going to spend the next video digging into HIPAA security.